Elias Kane had always believed that space was quiet, not silent, but calm. A place where the noise of human problems faded into the hum of engines and the steady pulse of stars. That belief died the moment the evacuation failed. The colony world of Hearth Prime burned below him, its sky split by alien warships shaped like black crowns. Sirens screamed through the human transport vessel as systems failed one by one. Elias stood in the cargo bay, helping the last civilians into escape pods, his hands steady even as his heart raced. He was not a soldier. He was a logistics officer. His job was planning routes, counting supplies, predicting shortages before they happened. But when the alien empire arrived without warning, plans meant nothing. A violent impact threw him against the wall. The lights went out. The ship shuddered, then went still. When Elias opened his eyes again, the air felt different, thinner, colder. Gravity pulled at him with an unfamiliar weight. He was no longer on a human ship. Tall figures moved around him, their shapes sharp and elegant, their skin shimmering like polished stone under blue-white lights. Their eyes glowed faintly, filled with a calm that made his stomach twist. They spoke in a language that flowed like metal sliding over glass. Elias tried to stand. A force pressed him back down. "Human," one of them said in broken trade speech. "Remain still." He looked down and saw a faint glow around his wrists and ankles, invisible chains of energy holding him in place. Fear surged through him, but he forced his breathing to slow. Panic never solved problems. It only made them worse. He lifted his head and met their eyes. "I am calm," he said. "I will not resist." That surprised them. He was transported through halls that seemed carved rather than built, their walls alive with shifting symbols. Everything spoke of power and age. This was no simple military ship. This was something royal. At the end of the corridor, massive doors opened without a sound. The chamber beyond was vast. A high ceiling arched like the inside of a cathedral, filled with floating lights that moved like slow stars. At its center sat a throne formed from dark crystal and living metal. On it sat Queen Zyrith. She was taller than the others, her form commanding without effort. A crown of sharp, organic shapes rose from her head, glowing faintly with inner energy. Her eyes were deep violet, ancient and sharp, like someone who had watched civilizations rise and fall and felt nothing. Elias felt very small. "This," said one of the guards, "is the human survivor." The queen studied him in silence. He did not bow, he did not speak. He simply stood as straight as the restraints allowed and waited. Most beings begged when they stood before her. Others screamed, some fainted. This one watched. "You are not afraid," Queen Zyrith said at last, her voice echoing softly through the chamber. "I am afraid," Elias replied honestly, "but fear does not help me think." A ripple of quiet reaction moved through the court. Some laughed softly, others frowned. "A thinking human," the queen said. "Interesting." She rose from the throne and descended the steps with slow grace, circling him like a predator examining unfamiliar prey. "Your species resists when resistance is useless," she continued. "You fight when surrender would save lives. Why?" Elias swallowed. "Because if we surrender everything, we stop being human." The queen stopped in front of him. For a long moment she simply looked at him, then she turned to her court. "This one will not be executed," murmurs spread instantly. "He is claimed," she said, "by me." A symbol of burning light appeared in the air and pressed itself into Elias' forearm. It did not hurt, but it felt heavy, like a promise carved into his skin. "What does that mean?" Elias asked. The queen looked at him. "It means you are my property." The word struck him harder than any blow. Property. Owned, the guards released him. The restraints vanished, but the weight remained. He was escorted to a section of the palace reserved for claimed assets, not prisoners, not citizens, something in between, watched but not caged. Days passed, or maybe weeks, time blurred under artificial light. Elias learned quickly. He listened when servants whispered. He watched how officials argued. He noticed how food shipments arrived late, how energy systems fluctuated during ceremonial hours, how entire wings of the palace relied on outdated distribution methods because tradition demanded it. No one expected a human to notice. No one expected a human to understand. When a minor supply collapse threatened a royal banquet, Elias quietly suggested a redistribution schedule using idle cargo drones. The solution worked. No one asked how he knew. When a border world nearly revolted due to ration mismanagement, Elias mapped a simple logistics correction that prevented disaster. The report shocked the administrators. "Who designed this?" they asked. The answer made them uneasy. The queen noticed. She summoned him again, this time not to the throne chamber, but to a private observation hall overlooking the stars. "You fix problems that have existed for centuries," she said. "Why?" "Because they are problems," Elias replied, "and problems can be solved." "In our empire," she said, "such thinking is rare." "In humanity," he said quietly, "it's survival." She studied him with new intensity. "You do not seek freedom," she said. "I seek purpose," Elias replied. "If I must exist here, I will exist usefully." That was the moment curiosity became something else. The court began to change how they looked at him, no longer as a curiosity, as a variable, an unknown factor. Whispers followed him through halls. The queen began calling him more often, asking questions, testing ideas. Watching how he answered when challenged. He never lied, never flattered, never begged. He spoke carefully, clearly, always aware that one wrong word could end his life. Yet he spoke. Finally, during a gathering of nobles and commanders, Queen Zyrith made an announcement that froze the entire hall. "The human Elias Cain," she said, her voice calm and absolute, "will no longer be classified as property alone." Gasps echoed. "I will claim him as royal consort," she continued. "Through formal union." Silence followed. Elias felt the world tilt. He understood enough now to know what that meant. In this empire, marriage was not love, it was control, binding, permanent. He lifted his eyes to the queen. For the first time since his capture, fear returned, not for his life, but for what his mind was about to attempt. Because humans survived not by strength, but by turning impossible positions into leverage. And Elias Cain was already planning how to do exactly that. The announcement changed everything. From that moment, Elias Cain was no longer treated as a silent asset moving through the palace. Every step he took was watched. Every word he spoke was remembered. The halls that once ignored him now followed him with careful eyes. The empire had never seen such a thing. A human, once marked as property, now named as future royal consort. Many nobles were angry, some were afraid. Others believed it was a strange test by the queen, something that would end quickly and quietly. No one believed a human could truly stand beside the ruler of an ancient empire. Elias understood the danger immediately. Marriage in this empire was not personal. It was political, legal, and absolute. A consort was bound to the throne by law. Their voice could shape policy, but only during specific rituals. Outside those moments, they existed under the queen's shadow, and shadows could be deadly. He returned to his quarters and sat alone for a long time, thinking. Panic tried to rise, but he forced it down. Panic never helped. Thinking did. He replayed every conversation he had overheard, every ritual he had seen, every legal phrase spoken during court assemblies. Humans survived by learning patterns, and this empire was built entirely on patterns and tradition. If there was a way to survive this, it would be hidden inside their own laws. Preparations began quickly. The palace shifted into ceremonial motion. Architects adjusted halls. Priests recalculated star alignments. Messengers spread the news across the empire. Entire worlds watched in disbelief. Elias was taught how to walk, how to stand, how to speak during formal gatherings. Alien instructors corrected him sharply, expecting obedience. They did not expect questions. "Why does the consort stand 2 steps behind the throne?" Elias asked calmly. "Because that is tradition," one replied. "And what happens if the consort stands beside it?" Elias asked. The instructor hesitated. "That position is reserved for equal rulers." "Has it ever been done?" Elias pressed. "Once," the instructor said reluctantly, "during a succession crisis long ago." Elias remembered that. At night he studied old records, not secretly, openly. No one believed a human could understand them deeply enough to matter. They were wrong. He learned that a royal union activated an ancient legal window called the voice of balance. During this period, the consort could speak freely before the empire, even challenge decisions, as long as they followed ceremonial law. The empire believed this was safe. They believed no outsider could ever use it. The queen noticed his focus. "You are quiet," she said during one of their meetings. "I am learning," Elias replied. "Learning what?" she asked. "How not to die," he answered honestly. For the first time, she smiled. As the ceremony approached, resistance grew. Several nobles attempted to delay it. Others tried to provoke Elias into mistakes. One confronted him publicly. "You are owned," the noble said coldly. "Do not forget your place." Elias met his gaze. Ownership is a legal state, he said, not a measure of worth. The noble said nothing more. On the day of the ceremony, the palace filled with light and sound. Representatives from hundreds of worlds appeared as glowing projections. The galaxy was watching. Elias walked forward alone, wearing simple ceremonial attire. No armor, no weapon, just his mind. Queen Zyrith stood before the throne, radiant and terrifying, the weight of her empire resting easily on her shoulders. The ritual began. Ancient words filled the chamber. Symbols of binding formed in the air. As the final phase approached, Elias felt the pressure of expectation. This was the moment. He stepped forward. Gasps rippled through the hall as he moved not behind the throne, but beside it. The priests froze. "This is irregular," one said. "It is permitted," Elias replied calmly, speaking the ancient language clearly. "Under the law of balance." Silence fell. Queen Zyrith turned to him slowly. Her eyes searched his face. "You understand our laws," she said. "I understand enough," Elias replied. The voice of balance activated. Light spread across the chamber. The galaxy leaned closer. Elias spoke. "Great Queen, honored empire," he said, his voice steady. "I stand here not to challenge your power, but to preserve it." Murmurs spread. "You rule through conquest," he continued. "But conquest without sustainability leads to collapse. Your outer worlds are starving. Your inner courts are bloated. Your systems waste energy to preserve tradition, not survival." Anger flared among the nobles. Elias did not stop. "I have seen your data. I have traced your supply failures. Your empire is strong, but strength without adaptation is weakness delayed." He turned slightly, addressing the projections. "Humans were never the strongest species. We survived because we change when the universe forces us to." Queen Zyrith listened in silence. "You claim me as property," Elias said, meeting her eyes. "And that protected me, but it also taught me something about your empire." "What is that?" she asked. "You fear losing control more than you fear losing everything," he replied. The chamber held its breath. "I do not ask for rebellion," Elias said. "I offer partnership. Change conquest into alliance. Turn ownership into cooperation. Let worlds choose loyalty because it works." The priests whispered urgently. The nobles argued. The queen raised one hand. Silence returned instantly. "You speak boldly for one who stands on the edge of execution," she said. Elias nodded. "Humans are used to edges." She looked at him for a long time. For the first time, her expression was not unreadable. It was uncertain. Finally, she spoke. "The empire will change," Queen Zyrith said slowly. "Not because you demand it, but because you have proven it is necessary." A shockwave of reaction spread across the galaxy. Elias felt his knees weaken, but he remained standing. The ritual concluded not as a binding of ownership, but as a declaration of shared rule. In the cycles that followed, the empire transformed. Supply lines stabilized. Worlds recovered. Humans were no longer classified as weak labor, but as strategic partners. Other species followed. Elias never ruled by force. He ruled by solving problems, and the galaxy learned a simple truth. Humanity did not conquer the stars. They changed them.